Speaking civilian during the truck building process can help departments secure funding for apparatus and equipment. But there are other ways to secure funding too. SuperVac and Command Light have worked with countless departments to meet grant requirements or secure financing through cooperative purchasing programs like HGAC. So if you're looking to equip crews with the hottest non-proprietary battery-powered tools like SuperVac's Valor Fan or Command Light's Tripod Light, be sure to visit supervac.com or commandlight.com. The Fire Store, equipping protectors with passion. Every decision the Fire Store makes as a company is about you, the customer. The Fire Store wouldn't be where it is today without you, and the company doesn't take that lightly. It understands that having the right gear can mean the difference between life and death. The Fire Store's goal is to get you the gear you need, when you need it, at prices you can afford. Visit thefirestore.com for everything but the truck and shop a family of brands that include Streamlight, MSA, Lion, Fleer, and more. Hi, Chris Mc Loone here with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Welcome to this episode of our podcast. We have another returning guest today. Back in, I guess it was probably March, I had Chief Michael Greco on. We were talking about, at that point, about an order that they were getting ready to place, but they still needed to get council approval, borough council, board of commissioners, whatever your town structure is. They needed to get approval from them in order to place the order for the truck. And what we really talked about last time, we talked a little bit about, the truck that they're going to buy and, or at that time, Chief Greco's plans for the truck. Today, we're going to find out if once everything came to pass, if he got everything he wanted for the price that he wanted. But we were really talking then about how to, I guess, for lack of a better term, speak civilian. Borough councils or commissioners or town councils, they don't always understand what we're going to them and just asking for a crap ton of money for something that they're going to see once in a while, responding maybe by the borough building, maybe down their street at home. They're not understanding exactly why we are asking A, for that much money, B, what we are asking, why what we are asking for would cost that money. And C, like how long, they have no idea how long we're planning on keeping these. So really what we need to do is we need to translate firefighter jargon into language that they'll understand. And that's what we talked about last time. And you can see that podcast on our YouTube channel. Well, a few months have gone by. Chief Greco made his presentation to the council. They approved it. And now, believe it or not, about, I think, Chief, you said it was about 4 months, they've already placed the order and the truck is going to be built. Now, it's still a 36-month delivery time.
36 months delivery at a minimum. It could be a little bit more.
Okay.
Right around 36 months. Yeah.
Okay. For those who don't remember, Chief Greco, he is chief of the Hasbrouck Heights, New Jersey Fire Department, and he is also a career firefighter with the Hackensack, New Jersey Fire Department. So, Chief, again, thank you for joining me again on this. We probably have one more after this when the rig lands,
yeah.
Or maybe we'll do one after your final inspection or one of your pre-construction inspections. You said you hadn't been out to the manufacturer yet, but could you just to get us started? You've gone to the council, they've approved it. You were able, you placed the order. What is the truck that you are purchasing, and what is it replacing, and what was the thought process behind the replacement?
Right. So the major thought process behind it was that we needed, our rescue is extremely antiquated and old. Our rescue truck or rescue company. It's a 1993 International with a 1994 Marion box on the back of it. It's not a engine or there's no pump on it or any of that. We also have a 1997 KME engine or pumper. When I presented it to the mayor and council, I said I can combine these two rigs and turn it into a squad. But again, as we talked about speaking English to a mayor and council, they know the word rescue, and they know the word fire engine. So I said, I'm going to combine it into a fire engine rescue. So it's 2 vehicles for the price of 1. And coming from an area where it's hard to purchase fire apparatus, if you tell them that you're going to multi-purpose vehicle, they're all about it. They're all about it. And that was the first step into getting it. And as in the last podcast before, we used to be a heavy extrication fire department. We used to do an extrication a week here, easily. Now we do way more fire duty than we do extrication. So for us, it's actually okay to downgrade a little bit of the extrication equipment and upgrade the fire duty equipment. And I'm also surrounded by heavy rescues all around me. Our next city over is the city of Hackensack that I could call for a rescue. Woodridge as well is also a heavy rescue. So I have the resources for it as well, rather than buying another heavy rescue for us, which in my opinion, I said on a last podcast, the volunteer fire department, heavy rescue serves zero purpose. I'm very sorry to everybody listening. If water does not come out of the unit, the word fire should not be on the truck. That's just the way I look at it. If you're a city, completely different story. Large city that is dedicated, a real dedicated rescue company, or a real dedicated truck company with no water on it. You have 4 or 5, 6 engines coming. That's a different story. Volunteer fire department, we all know we have no idea what we're going to get. You might get everything, or you might get nothing. So that's the way we looked at it. That was the beginning phase.
Okay, so you went. Just talk real quick. Curiosity question, because whenever we, as you and I were just talking a few minutes ago, and as we all know, the cost for fire apparatus has gone up. You went to the town council. You got permission to spend X amount of dollars. Was part of your budgeting for this? Are you getting any money out of the 2 rigs? Are you budgeting to sell the two existing rigs and have that go toward this? How did the budgeting process work out for you?
So what we did was right now we have 2 engines, which I think is unacceptable. For the area that we cover actually 2 towns. We're contracted for a major commercial town and also a major private airport. So I explained to the town, I believe that 2 engines is unacceptable. So we're going to get rid of the rescue, whether it goes out to, whether somebody buys it or however the town's going to deal with it, that's fine. We're going to keep the 1997 KME, try to do a minor refurbishment, if you will. So then when the new engine comes in, we'll be a 3-engine fire department, not a 2-engine and a ladder and a rescue. So that was that part of it too, because our ISO rating will drop a point, which is also good for the taxpayers. So that's what I explained that part to our local politicians, and they were happy to hear that. And truly for our area and the area coverage and all of our mutual aid, you need 3 engines here. And I think every volunteer fire department needs 3 engines. If one breaks down, you're going to tell me that you're going to roll up with a single engine and you're good? You're not good. So in my opinion, minimum 3 engines. I don't care where you're from. That's my opinion. I don't care if you're in the middle of rural area or whatever.
Talk a little bit about, we'll get into some more specifics on the rig you're purchasing, but talk a little bit about, you mentioned how you have, the other rescues around you. For those who don't know, Hackensack and Hasbrouck Heights, I would consider you North Jersey, being from the Philadelphia area. But talk a little bit about that response area.
Right.
Your Hasbrouck Heights is, you've got 2-lane divided highways. You've got residential. You've got a lot of commercial. Talk about your response area and how changing to a squad concept is not going to take away from any of the services.
No, it's not. It's actually going to help us because we do cover a massive amount of highway. Route 17, Route 46, part of Route 80. We couple of county roads that are here. Route 46 specifically is it's a 2-lane highway that is really like a 45 mile an hour speed limit that people do like 90 easily. Route 17 is the same. We're on the cover of Fire Engineering magazine for one of a horrible accident that we had down there. Since those days ended, the light changing sequence has changed. where they have red lights for longer and things like that. And they've actually stopped a lot of accidents on Route 17 and Route 46. So our PIN numbers went way down. So we have the same amount of tools on the squad, the same exact tools as we have on the rescue, but now they're battery operated. So they're smaller. So we use Hurst hydraulic tools. Great tool. 45 minutes of runtime. We've had them for a few years now, and they're perfectly fine. No complaints with them at all. We use them. We don't, we constantly train with them. They don't just sit there. As far as a squad rolling up to a working structure fire, we rolled up to a building fire in the next town over. It was a auto body and rim and tire repair shop. This is pre-squad making our engine into a squad, and we had window bars on every single window of this place. So we had to cut every single window bar with force punch saws. Now, I don't know if anybody's ever cut a window bar before, but it takes quite a while, especially a well-fortified one. So now we rolled pretty heavy that day. We had 8 guys on the engine. We were requested as a single engine, but I had 8 guys. So we ended up being almost first due into the box. 4 guys stretched a 2.5-inch line, but the other 4 I had to dedicate for making means of egress. Now, if we were a squad, I would have had a Hurst spreader, and I would have took the Hurst spreader and blew the window bars off by myself. It takes 1 guy. So rather than taking a force punch saw, and everybody knows you got to sit there and whap, 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 and at least cut 2 sides, her spreader would have ripped the thing off in 2 seconds. So that's where the squad concept actually really comes into play. And I said it on the last podcast, I don't really like the word squad a whole lot. There's a lot of squads out there that are extensively trained. Squad companies in New York City are hazmat technicians. They're trained in collapse, they're trained in trench rescue, rope, everything. We don't have all the same exact training. So I actually don't like that word. I actually do like calling it a fire rescue, even though it sounds a little goofy, but because it's not truly a squad. For me, if you're a squad company, you're able to get off the engine and build a rake or shore on the spot. That's what a squad company is, or, hazmat, what have you. But in terms of talking about the apparatus, I use the word squad just to firemen understand it a little bit better. But talking to the public,
it's going to be a rescue pumper.
Or rescue engine, whatever you want to call it. Some people would call it a rescue wagon, whatever you want to call it.
So I'm guessing this is when it arrives, when it lands. 36 months, it's going to be a little while, but when it lands, it's probably going to be your first out piece. So talk a bit about that. You got called for a single engine. You just mentioned you got called for a single engine, but you brought 8 guys.
Yeah.
We've got now if you've already placed the order, that means that you're going to be compliant with NFPA 1901, which is the current fire apparatus standard, but that will change in January. So you're and the reason I bring that up is because in January there's some differences, and we're going to get into this on some future podcasts. There are some differences in the seating rules. What's primary seat? How far do they have to be away from each other, et cetera? But you said you rolled up with 8 guys. What kind of seating are you talking about with the squad when you get it?
That rig that we have now is a overdone monstrosity engine that was purchased in 2001, and the cab has literally 8 seats in the back, 2 seats in the front for the chauffeur and the officer. There is 10 Scott packs on that rig, 10. So you could, if you're called for a single engine to a working fire, you could literally, and that was a perfect example. You could roll up and a fire like that where it was a decent working fire, and the mutual aid town that we went to needed help. You could literally split your team in half, make half the truck, half the engine, and we could actually get it done pretty easily. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild. We actually converted, as of today, to be honest with you, we converted both of our engines into squads today. We just finished to get the guys into the muscle memory of it.
Okay.
To get the guys ready for what's coming. We had a very bad MVA about a motor vehicle accident. We had a very bad one about 3 weeks ago, I'd say. And we started to switch tools over. We weren't completely finished yet. The engine rolled first due. We had a hearse tool right out. We had a line stretched, everything simultaneously. I had plenty of manpower, but it was nice to see that first. That to me, that was the first test run, and then we made the decision that we're going to turn both engines into a squad. It took a lot of work, but actually we finished today. And here's the other thing, folks: if you're going to ask a town for a substantial amount of money like you do, my point is that I explained to the town, our rescue truck is antiquated, it's falling apart, which it is. It's actually being repaired right now. So I told the town, well, I asked you for a substantial amount of money, and I'm taking the tools off the rig now, and I'm putting them on the 2 current engines that I have right now, and this thing is slowly going to be put into reserve and then slowly get out of here, because I meant what I said when I needed a fire engine. So you want your mayor and council and your financial officer to trust you. I don't want them to see me rolling around in this rescue that has nothing wrong with it and it's perfectly fine, and that there's a lot wrong with it. And you prove so by, if you really need it, you prove so by what we did today. And it's antiquated, and in my opinion, it's actually unsafe to rig. I'm not a huge safety guy, if you know me.
But already you're establishing that trust by, converting those 2 over. And now, should they see it, they're seeing you insert. You're demonstrating to them exactly what it is you plan to buy. Sure. So now they can actually see it in action, and it's better for the firefighters because they're doing it. So what we've instructed every firefighter is, and we actually had a department meeting last night. What we're trying to do is one side of the fire engine is rescue. The other side of the fire engine is engine stuff. And what we're doing is we're just having guys go over the rig. We're doing more drilling on just the equipment of the rig. I have guys everybody's on their cell phones 24 hours a day, right? Take your cell phone, take a picture of each compartment. And when you're doing nothing, just flip through the photos in your gallery, look at each compartment on the photo so you know where everything is. And there was a few shortfalls on the rescue that we found today as we were taking the equipment out. And I'm like, you know what? We could fix things. As we're peeling stuff off the truck, you're like, why do we do it this way? You know what? Let's pre-make our airbag system to a cylinder. Let's do this. Let's do that. So before you know it, you're getting into a 3-hour conversation about updating what you have already and then putting it on a rig. So it actually was a really good thing today. We just finished today. My jeans have hydraulic fluid and grease all over. But I like to be hands-on with the guys, Good deal. So I think I missed the answer to the question in the beginning. I think I spoke over you, so that's my fault. How many are going to be, what's the seating for the new one?
The seating for the new one is going to be a lot less. So it's going to be driver, officer, 4 firefighters in the back.
Okay.
That's it. My thing is I don't want to, as I mentioned before, we brought 8 firefighters to a work and structure fire in another town. We don't want to overload the piece to the point that our primary first due area is now stripped, and we have a very active fire department. I have a lot of guys we have a lot of guys on rotating shifts like myself. We get out like 99% of the time pretty quickly, but I'd like to have some of my guys stay back in case we get a fire at home or the other town that we cover as well. We're spread out pretty good with the South Bergen Mutual Aid and also the 2 towns that we cover. So yeah, we didn't go as big with the cab, but we needed a lot more with the body because we had a lot of stuff going on with the body. So.
With the body, when we're talking about that, in my head right now, I'm thinking, okay, this is probably going to be a little longer, but I also am kind of familiar with, your response area, and it's not always, not always conducive to designing a longer rig, a longer pumper.
Sure.
What are we talking about overall lengthwise? And did you need to sacrifice anything in terms of water or?
No, there was nothing. There was nothing sacrificed, which is actually funny that you bring that up. We're under contract now, so I could say it. We're purchasing a Purus Enforcer. Purus offered us. We wanted a 1,000-gallon booster tank for a reason. they are able to offer us they call it the New York City hose bed, where it's an extremely low hose bed with the 1,000 gallons of booster water. We need 1,000 gallons of booster water because we cover a major airport that has no hydrants readily available. We've had many plane crashes here, some serious, some minor, but you'll see here that we have a hydrant every 400 feet max where we are here. Most of the time we front suction hydrants and we run a tenement load off the back, which is our 600-foot line, and we break it where we need it. When we go down to the airport, or we're on Route 80 or Route 17 and we have no hydrants available, now all of a sudden we're a tanker real quick. So we're all over the place with this area down here. We are suburban, urban, and rural all at the same time. So that's why this rig is the way it is. The overall length is pretty long. I don't have the exact number for you. It's going to be a longer rig, but once again, it's 2 rigs in one.
Right.
I'd rather have. I mean, if I could have a fire engine the length of a golf cart, I would. But unfortunately, what we're doing, it's going to be a little long. But again, it's going to be a squad body, so it is what it is. Also, the motors are bigger too. And that's a lot of these newer rigs. The motors are bigger. Some of the motors are that are big names are being discontinued. Some of the motors, the body doesn't fit around them, so they'll discontinue the model. So there's a lot of stuff that plays into it too. Like you might end up getting a bigger rig because the motor doesn't fit. So there's a lot of stuff that plays into it. But
operationally, are you? I'm not sure how you guys run in Hasbrouck Heights, but operationally, how are you running? Are you doing? I guess we'll start with water supply. Are you doing a front bumper intake, a rear intake, side intakes, or are you anti front bumper intake? How does that work for you?
On the fire engine that we purchased, right now both engines have intakes on both sides, officer side, chauffeur side, and a front bumper. The engine that we purchased has an intake on every side of the rig, rear, both sides, and the front. It's a fire engine. There should be a water that can come in on every side of the rig, in and out every side of the rig. We have some tight streets. So on a very, very tight street, we have one street called Summit Avenue. It's extremely tight. Somebody could lay into it if they had to, which we don't really like to lay into rigs here. We rather front suction or side suction. But if somebody had to lay into it on this extremely narrow street, they could plug it into the rear suction. There's no hose in the way of anybody. And we could do it that way, or front suction or side suction for optimal GPM coming from the hydrant. But some people don't like side suctions. Some people don't like front suctions. For me, I need water to come into this fire engine every way possible, especially if you have a big job in one of these commercial buildings that we deal with. If I could get 2 supply lines in, I'm going to take it.
Okay. How about now? Hopefully, we hear all kinds of studies and different things, and how many gallons it actually takes to put out a room and contents fire. So hopefully, with that 1,000 gallons, you're gonna be well ahead of things by the time the other rig shows up.
For structural fires here, so your average structural fire in Hasbrouck Heights, you're running the mill. Like we just did 2 gardens in a row, actually, small apartments, or your typical dwelling. 9 times out of 10, almost 10 times out of 10, we don't rely on the booster tank. We suction a hydrant. For many reasons, we have them everywhere. But if we're on a hydrant, I don't need the booster tank anymore. We're good. Just pump the hydrant. So it's a lot of safety issue. But the booster tank being so big is for that. You might roll up to that time where, we're hooking up to a hydrant, but I have a commercial well off. There's a video on YouTube at Hasbrouck Heights of a commercial building well off. They did lay in their own supply line, but they used a deck gun first. And with that booster tank knocked down about 90% of the fire, they charged the hydrant, continued, and then they stretched on it, and they finished it off. So the 1,000 gallons will come into play. We did a garage, more of a carriage house, about 2 years ago. Same thing, fully involved on arrival. The exposures were off gassing. We laid in and we hit it with the deck on a knockdown. the bulk of the fire. So yeah, for that type of stuff, like almost like a blitz attack, it's great. It's great.
Let's talk about the attack lines a little bit.
Sure.
I mean, you can go crazy with attack lines.
Sure.
You always have to think about the piping, to get wherever you got to go and the friction loss involved there. I guess to just talk about the attack lines that you're going to be employing and their locations and the size of those attack lines.
Sure. So yeah, that's easy because I know them from bumper to bumper. Our hose that we use is 1.75-inch hose. Off the front bumper, there's going to be two 200-foot bumper lines, primarily for vehicle fire and or dumpster, rubbish, minor type stuff. They'll be off the bumper. There will be no crosslays on the fire engine. Where the crosslays would normally go is where we're going to store foam in that area, buckets of foam. We currently have both engines right now currently have an onboard foam system, which I'm not a huge fan of. If you don't use them all the time, they get gummed up and it's a lot of money in service. So we're going to have regular foam barrels. We're going to use a regular eductor, old school style, and that's how we're going to work that. So there will be no crosslays. Moving to the back, there's going to be two 600, we call them tenement loads. There'll be two 600-foot lines off the back, and you stretch what you need, break it, and hook it up. There'll also be 600 foot of 2.5 off the back, 800 feet of 3-inch, and we have 1,000 feet of 5-inch. We're looking into adding a little bit more. We were actually talking about 1,500 or even 2,000 because of this airport and all these highways and everything else, because they're so spread apart. The airport is actually really bad. But if I'm able to grab a hydrant at the street and I'm able to, if I have to do what I have to do, I could drop 1,000 and somebody could relay pump it to me. Perfect. I can, if I could get it to fit, we're going to get it to fit. And that's kind of I know this is going to sound crazy. That's kind of the benefit of the 36 months. I know 36 months sounds crazy, but as we see, so that's 3 years time. 3 years ago, if you told me that we were going to be doing EV fires and that it was going to take like 40,000 gallons of water to put it out, I would tell you you're out of your mind. So now we're doing this EV fire crap. Now we're doing lithium fire battery, all this. We're doing all sorts of stuff that 3 years ago I would have told you no way. So 3 years from now, I could say, holy cow, you know what? We got to change something on this rig, whatever it may be. And now I have that time because I have no idea what's coming 3 years from now. And it seems like every 3 years, something changes.
Yep.
So that's kind of cool. And I know it's miserable to wait that long, but it's kind of cool because years ago when they bought these rigs, they were purchase order to delivery date was like 9 months, literally. And they would pack the rig in and then, oh man, we didn't get this, or we should have did this compartment this way. We should, and that happens. And both engines that they bought years ago were squad bodies, extremely overdone, humongous compartments with nothing in them. And now here we are in 2023. It actually worked to our benefit because each rig now is a rescue pumper. So it actually worked to our benefit now, believe it or not.
Talk about the pump. Single stage, 2-stage. What's the GPM?
Single stage, 2,000 GPM, 1,000 booster. We're going with single. We have single stage hail pumps now, so we're going to stick with that. It's just I'd rather not change something that the guys are really used to. There's some departments, city departments, that have 3-stage pumps because they have major high rises. We don't have any major high. We do have high rise, but not major high rise. Our biggest high rise is 18 stories. So our single stage pump is no problem to pump that. So that's what we're going to stick with. Just nice and simple, and not too crazy for the guys.
Now we had earlier in September, we did a podcast with a couple of our water delivery guys.
Sure.
An episode on 4-way valves. So just curious, what you mentioned you want to lay in most of the time. You want to hook up to a hydrant as often as you can without relying on that booster tank. Do you guys use a 4-way valve on your hydrants? Do you
consider
the truck to be the valve?
We do not. Reason being is Our hydrants here are unbelievable. We don't get anything less than 110 pounds
Wow.
on every hydrant that we have in Hasbrouck Heights. We don't have anything less than 110 pounds coming in. Most of the time, you don't have to pump the line. I mean, really, you barely, because you have 50 pounds right off the bat into pump. Now you're getting 110 in. So most of the time, I'm cracking a discharge, and that's the end of it. Really, it's unbelievable. We are extremely grateful for that. So we really don't have that problem here. There's other people that do, but not really around here. And I could probably, and obviously it's not what you're supposed to do. I could probably drop 2,000 feet of supply hose and fill it without having an issue at all.
Okay.
That's the kind of hydrants that we have here.
Yeah.
Huge water mains. They did a lot of repairs to them over the years as well. So we're so fortunate with that. Thank God. Thank God.
Just a curiosity question, just based on, there's no right answer. There's no right or wrong answer.
Sure.
It always has to do with, your first due and, what you're going to do. Do you carry a 4-way valve in case you need to do a relay?
We do carry it. Our procedure is we carry it. We don't hook up to it. We will front suction or side suction a hydrant, and we also hook up a piece of 3-inch into our auxiliary intake. Thought process behind that is if we can get more than 1,000 GPM out of the hydrant, we're going to. We also could grab another 5-inch off of the 2.5 side of the hydrant. We've done that before. We have gotten well over 1,000 GPM out of hydrants here in Hasbrouck Heights. So also the auxiliary intake, if we have a failure in our front suction, okay, our one engine is a pneumatic front suction. I don't know if you've ever dealt with one of these. Sometimes it's a pneumatic switch. It's like anything else. It might not work. Mm-hmm. It's fine if it doesn't work because I have a regular old school lever for the auxiliary intake. So I'll just 3-inch auxiliary intake. Guess what? Piece of 3-inch, you're more than fine on your typical dwelling, or sometimes even some type of commercial buildings fire. They use them for a very long time prior to 5-inch, which we carry now. So yeah, that's why it's kind of like a redundancy system in that way.
Okay. Speaking of the valves, you going electric? You going manual? Are you just sticking with what the guys prefer?
They're going to be all manual, with the exception of the rear suction. That's going to be an electronic to do that one. If I could figure out a way to not make it that, I won't make it that. But right now it's an electronic. I'm not a huge fan of electronics, but right now that's going to be electronic.
Let's take a break from the truck for just a second, and you said it a few times. Like if you can figure out how to get the 1,000 or the more than 1,000 feet of 5-inch, you will. If you can figure out how to not make that rear intake an electronic valve, you will. Talk a little bit about the committee that you assembled for this, and the people who were on it.
Sure. I in the beginning stages, I knew exactly who I wanted for the committee. And I hate being a dictator, but sometimes you have to make hard choices as the fire chief. I wanted half of the committee to be really young guys. I wanted the guys who are daily stretching the line off the rig. Okay. I've looked at other towns, other places, and their committee, everybody's above the age of 55 making decisions for a fire engine that they're going to ride for another 10 years. In reality, we all know we're riding this fire engine for 30 years. So I wanted a younger guy who's going to ride this fire engine for 30 years and then be around for the next one. So I got 4 younger guys. I got a couple of like middle range guys like myself, late 30s. And I have one very senior man. He's well over 25 years on the fire department. So it's a good mix of everything. So that's where the no cross lace came into play. Because the younger guys are stretching off the rear for everything. So like we don't need cross lace, but we rather have bumper lines because one of our engines has a bumper line. So that's where the younger guys come into play, and it's actually really, really a good thing. As the fire chief, I'm not stretching the hose off the rig, So my thing is, I don't care where you put the hose. I don't care if you put it on the bumper. I don't care where you want. Whatever's best for you, because I'm not stretching it. Unfortunately. Very unfortunately, I'm not stretching it, but I'm not. So I rather the guys tell me what they want and let's get what they want to do their job more efficiently rather than, have an older guy say, we always did it this way, and we purchase something that's not going to be optimal for the guys that are actually stretching or using the tools, etc. on the rig. So that's what's going on with that. Yeah.
So getting back to the truck, we talked a lot about the water delivery part of this, and hose lines, and pre-connects, and or not. We didn't talk too much about. You touched on the tools that you have now that you've been using. What's some of the? How is this going to be set up for what type of rescues is this going to be set up for? I'm guessing it's going to be. Vehicle rescue primarily, but are you
Yes.
doing anything? Is it set up for anything else? Any kind of ropes or anything?
Right. We are gonna do rope. We're gonna do some rope systems, not a lot. Your typical Z-rig, roof rope. We're going to do. And that's to me a Z-rig and roof rope is basic roof rope that everybody should know how to do. We have a USAR. Hackensack is our USAR rescue, which is literally next to the over. So if we have a high angle rescue, or we have something that's out of our scope, we immediately call them. Building collapse, stuff like that, they're immediately coming here with the UASI rescue or USAR rescue, and then they call for their resources as they see fit. And it's great because they're literally right next door to us. And that's actually the plan in Bergen County of itself. Basically the volunteer fire departments, your scope of practice is vehicle extrication, maybe a little bit of shoring, maybe a little bit of everything a little bit, but really it's up to the USAR and UASI companies to deal with that.
Okay. Any you mentioned you are going to do some rope or have some rope available to you.
Sure.
Any unique locations for anchor points on there? Or are you just kind of going with the standard sort of eye hooks on the front, eye hooks on the back?
All four sides of the rig are going to have inserts for anything you want to do in regard to an anchor point. All four sides of the rig are going to have it's pretty much a hitch on a truck. All four sides of the rigs will have power for a winch as well. So you could run the winch on all four sides of the rig, or it could be used as an anchor point too. And that was something that we had to throw into the spec last minute because we're so the word engine and then the word winch, it doesn't mix. So that was something last minute. They were like, "Oh wait, we need a winch." Like, all right, all four sides, and that was the last minute thing, but we got it in there.
You mentioned the 1,000-gallon tank. You mentioned, but it has the really low hose bed. Is the height of the truck really tall, or
the overall height?
Are there a lot of overpasses up there that you really need to be worried about?
There is, but the overall height is not anything higher than the engines that we have. The hose bed, you see the picture with the little firefighter, like at the hose bed, it's literally the top of the hose bed is at his head. And on the last podcast, we discussed it. It's all about how you pack your hose. So you could have the lowest hose bed in the whole world. If you single stack it improperly and have the nozzle 18 feet off the freaking ground, it doesn't make a difference how high the hose bed is. We triple stack our tenement loads, and the last length is 2 horseshoes. So horseshoe for the nozzle man, horseshoe for the officer, and off they go, and it's nice and low. Some people don't always pack it that way. Some people pack Minuteman single stacks. That's fine. It works for them. But we like to keep it as low as possible. We have a couple of short firemen on the fire department. I'm one of them. I'm 5'10". I'm a little. So short as we can get is what we do.
How about master streams? Do you have a deck gun, or are you carrying a portable master stream device?
Yep. Right now we have a True Stang that's going to be on the as our deck gun. It's a True Stang, 2,000 GPM up to maybe even a little bit more. Multi-versatile, which is basically a deck gun on the ground, and also a mercury nozzle, which is good for 500 GPM. So the mercury nozzle is really good for the chauffeur. If we roll up to a fire with fire extending into the exposure, he can run that by himself and put it in between the exposures and charge it. It's only 500 GPM, so that's why we carry that. But the multi-versatile is great. Put that on the ground, and then again, we ordered a True Stang, which is, I don't know if anyone has ever used one, but they're extremely powerful. So and it's easy to use. There's no electronics. There's a monster handle that comes off of it, and my 5-year-old son could probably figure out how to use it. And that's how I like to keep equipment.
How about lighting? Trends right now, or we'll actually talk about some of the other, equipment that engine companies actually carry. What about the lighting? And is there a generator these days? With LED lights and how they have progressed. I know that our two newest pumpers don't have generators on them anymore. All of our small electric hand tools are battery powered
Right.
now. Our positive pressure fans are battery powered now. How about you? What did you go with?
We ended up getting a generator. We weren't originally. We ended up getting it. Biggest reason was we have the portable generators. I hate them. We had a really bad pin job, middle of the night, freezing outside. Every 15 seconds, they were shutting off. I'm like, I can't deal with this. So I remembered that the Hurst hydraulic tools are 45 minutes of runtime. They're great, but if we're doing like a heavy duty pin and the batteries die, well, I have a generator and there's a separate battery pack that hooks in and plugs right into the generator, and that's it. I don't have to worry about portable generator and gasoline and all this other stuff. And the generator is small enough that we didn't lose too much compartment space. That was our biggest problem. We're like, are we going to lose compartment space because of this generator? Because both of our engines now have them, but we didn't lose too much compartment space, so we stuck with it. There's LED scene lights all the way around the rig, and also I'm sure you've seen it, that LED strictly scene light bar, the little brow.
Mm-hmm.
We have that too, and I've seen other rigs with it. It's more than enough lighting, to what you need. It's actually too much sometimes. But that's what we went with. Yeah.
So we talked a bit about the engine company type things, the rescue company type things, but every so often you do need to grab a ladder off the rig. You're just doing a regular complement, a 14-foot roof, 28-foot or 24-foot two section.
Yeah, well, 24 foot on the side, traditional, with our 2.5 bundles underneath on the tray. Pretty traditional. 24 foot will be on the outside, 14 foot will be on the inside, if that makes sense. A lot of people do that in reverse. If you need a portable ladder off of an engine, you got a problem. So my first ladder better be a portable extension ladder, not a roof ladder. So the first ladder off will be the 24. If we have to make a grab to a second floor window that might be a little bit higher than what you think, you grab that ladder and you'll be fine. Again, if a portable ladder comes off of an engine, I'd rather it be an extension, not a straight ladder. That's how I think about that.
Okay. So we talked about a lot of things today. It's been, like I said, the end of March, I think, was when we spoke the first time, and then that was before you had officially brought it to the town council. I don't think it had been totally approved yet.
No.
Since that time, you've gone. It took about 4 months to get everything. What's that?
Yep, 4 months. I mean, from
4 months to get it all specced out and vendor selected.
Yep.
Right.
4 months. I mean, when we did our due diligence, luckily my committee is filled with great, aggressive firemen, both at fires and with business end. And I told them, listen, I'm going to work with the town. I need you guys to come up with the engine exactly what you want. We're going to work simultaneously, and it's going to go real fast. So strap in. And it did. I knew what I needed to present. My paperwork went in on February the 15th. By June, it was approved. By July 31st, July 31st, the purchase order was cut and the down payment was sent. That's how fast this whole thing went. The mayor and council approved it at a council meeting. I had the entire fire department come. We clapped for the mayor and council to show our appreciation. And that's how it went. But again, and I said it on my first podcast, I gave them very good reasons why we needed the rig, what would happen if we didn't get the rig. And I asked in my proposal, if they don't want to buy the rig, you can't fight with these people. And I said it on the first podcast. You cannot argue with these people. They're not firemen. They don't understand. You have to make them understand. So I explained to them, I said, well, if the fire engine is not going to be purchased, I'm going to need a document back from the town saying that year 2023, they're unable to purchase a fire engine, and I need them to sign it. So something really bad happens, which God forbid, the fire chief, the fire department came to the mayor and council looking for a new piece of fire apparatus. They said no. It wasn't that the fire chief or the fire department did not make that attempt. And when you put it kind of like in that legality form a little bit, it kind of awakens them a little bit. And, and it's not a threat. It's kind of just like, well, this is kind of the way it goes. We're kind of worried about our safety, the civilian safety. A 1993 rescue is not cutting it for us anymore. It's unsafe. And they were all for it. And they kind of knew. A lot of these towns, they know what's going on. They know what your rigs are because they're looking at the police department as well. Police department needs new police cars all the time. So police department rolls in, listen, we need to replace this 2012 police car. They have it in their mind. Okay, the fire department has a 1993 that's going to be coming up. They know it. It's up to you to present it professionally and not go in there like a fireman. I cannot stress it enough. Do not go to a regular person as a fireman. Go to them like you are not a fireman and you are just trying to buy something. That's it. It's the best advice I can give you. Take the fireman language out. Trust me.
Speaking of advice, that was a great piece of advice there. In general terms, having gone through this process now you're at the waiting part. But
sure.
What advice? We've covered in the magazine, we've covered in webinars, we've covered in podcasts. The reality is there are challenges right now when you go to spec out a truck. Some of those challenges really are revolving around lead times, but there are some other ones where, but those lead times do impact other things. They impact fleet maintenance. They impact, if you were planning to, replace a truck in 3, like start the process, replace a truck in 3 years, start the process in 2. That's not the reality of things right now. So if you had any other advice, just about this whole process and about getting into it, besides the getting approval from the council, what would some of that advice be?
My advice is if whether you're on the committee or you assign the committee, so I'm both. My advice is if you're building an engine, they built this engine in 5 meetings. 5. Okay. It's 2023. Do not build an engine that we used to build. Okay. Do not argue over gold leaf. Do not argue over LEDs. Do not argue over ancillary stuff because you're never going to finish. Each month that you wait, each year that you wait, these rigs are substantially costing more money. Now, there's another podcast out there where the guy said, buy it now. He's 100% correct. The longer you wait, the more expensive this rig is going to get, the less of a chance that you have for the town to approve that rig because of how much it is. So it really should not take, especially an engine. I mean, we built the squad, and I give a lot of credit to my committee chairman. His name is Ryan. I give a lot of credit to him. And a lot of times, if you know exactly what you want, search the internet. We have the internet now. It's wonderful, right? So search the internet. So there's Kentland 33 squad body engine. It's Pierce. Oh, wonderful. They have this figured out already. And there's also Progress, Pennsylvania. Pierce squad body engine. Oh, wonderful. They have this figured out already. Just take the engines and look at them both. Okay, and go down the list. I need this, 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 and this. I don't need this, this, and this. It doesn't take a long time because everybody out there has built engines within the last 5 years that are pretty user-friendly, and trucks. So you could go out and look at somebody else's stuff and get a pretty good idea. By all means, don't rush what you're about to do. But if you know you're going to be in the upcoming year in the process of buying one, put all the thoughts in your head, but don't spend forever with the committee. I've seen it before. The committee fighting amongst itself. We need this, or we need that. Keep it simple. Buy exactly what you need. We don't even have a bell on this rig. I don't care.
Now that's a problem. I have a major problem with that.
The older guy said to me, and my answer to the older guy, I said, when you can tell me the amount of GPM that comes out of the bell, I'll buy the bell. I said, but I got to keep this, there's no chrome. There's not an inch of chrome on the rig. There's no chrome. There's everything is rhino lined in black, non-slip surfaces. I had one guy ask me why there's no chrome, and I explained to him it's not a Harley Davidson, and we both had a laugh out of it, and that was the end. But all of these things keep the cost down. Yep. So if you want to have $1 million fire engine and you want to keep it at that, well, this is what you got to do. If you start adding in all these little things and change orders and all this stuff, that's where the town looks at it and they're like, oh my God. And the town, especially your CFO and QPA, they look at your options list. Trust me. And they'll make you go through it. And they'll ask you, like they did me, what's a rear suction? What does that mean? And I got to explain myself. And it's much better to explain yourself that this was for firefighting rather than they go down and say, what's gold leaf 6 inches about? What does that mean? Oh, well, that's because the guys want gold to look nice on the. No, it's those days are over. I'm telling you, and it's I'm hearing it nationwide that people are having a lot of trouble purchasing trucks. So the more simple that you can keep it, maybe when you get it, you take your money from your local fire department funds or whatever, and you could add to it, which I'm sure we will. But my suggestion is to try to keep it very simple. And when you go to propose that, tell them that. Tell them we are buying a plain Jane fire engine to save you money. They want to hear that you're saving them money. That's what they want to hear. On any purchase, really. And we've bought, we're lucky enough, our fire commissioner and our deputy fire commissioner, they're very supportive of the fire service. We've bought everything. We bought 35 wireframe Scott packs. Yes, wireframes. We've bought Hearst tools, portable radios. I mean, you name it, gear, 20 sets of gear within the last year. They're very, very, very proactive fire department, but because we give them a reason why we need everything. You don't just go to them, I need 10 sets of gear. Okay, they might get it for you, but I need 10 sets of gear because the lifespan of the gear is up, 3 coats are burned, and I have 4 brand new members with expired gear going to the academy. That's a reason. So when you give it to them that way, 9 times out of 10, they're going to give it to you.
And, like you were saying with the change orders and all this other stuff, they're going to remember the next time. Now, we did say the reality is this is going to be there for 30 years, but I guarantee you there's going to be somebody who remembers the last time we gave them money for this. It became a fiasco. And it ended up costing X amount of dollars more. Forget it. We're not going.
My father is an ex-chief of Hasbrouck Heights. I tell him all the time, I am paying for the sins of the 90s. All the time. All the time. Because I said that, well, you bought that rig. I hear it constantly. I also hear the stories of when they used to drink beer in the 80s and people remember it, of them being crazy on the rig. I am paying for the sins of the late 80s and the 90s at 2023, and I have to explain myself. I actually just got into this yesterday with a guy who writes for the newspaper. And I said, dude, it's 2023. I said, we are too busy to drink beers around here. Trust me. So, yeah.
And I do kid around about the bell. I've lost every battle. I fought for I'm a big tradition guy. That's where it is in my head. Yeah. But I've been losing bell battles for years. Yeah. So I am over it. I just like to
but you know what? But the bell's a perfect topic, though. Like, you could order the rig without the bell, and then when the rig comes in, like we have a collection. I'm pretty sure everyone does a fund drive, right? Your volunteer fire department. Sure. Okay, well, what's the bell cost? Hey guys, listen, it's going to be about $4,000 to get the bell. We want to get it engraved. Hasbrouck Heights Fire Department. The year the rig was purchased, replaced this, that, the other. It's the first squad body rig we're ever doing. When we get a bell, and you know what? We'll take it out of our fund drive money, and we'll show the town. Listen, we'll eat this part of it. And it shows the town good faith. We'll eat the bell. We'll eat the power call siren. We'll eat certain things that we're going to put into this rig when it comes in. We promise. So yeah, that's my advice.
Good deal. Well, we've talked about a lot today. We're kind of following the process here. Now there will be a gap now, but I'm still going to be keeping in touch with you and figuring out where you're at. I'm sure, like you said earlier, some things might change along the way.
Sure.
The hose bed being a good example.
Yeah.
Like maybe you can't figure out how to get the 1,000 feet in there. Maybe it's not as much space as you thought you had. So there's going to be different things that change along the way. So I'm going to be anxious to hear your.
That's the only good thing about the 3 years. The only good thing, They might come up with a requirement for EV fires that I need a
Sure.
new tool to carry or whatever, and now I got to change stuff. You know what I mean? So that's the only good thing about 3 years. So.
Well, Chief, thank you very much for coming on with me again. Like I said, I do look forward to hearing about this as the years pass here. Again, this has been Chris Mc Loone with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. My guest today is Chief Mike Greco with the Hasbrouck Heights Fire Department. Should you have any questions for Chief Greco, please feel free to email them to me, chris.mcloone@clarionevents.com. I will get them to him. Certainly, if we have a ton of questions come in, we'll have a special edition of the podcast. So that he can answer those for you. He does have a kid on the way though, so
yes, I do. My third is on the way. Second son is on the way.
So his availability might be a little touch and go, over the next few months.
Good. It's all good. Fireman all the time, and my wife is very supportive, and my kids love it, so we're good.
Great. Well, thank you again, Chief. Again, Chris Mc Loone with Fire Apparatus and Emergency Equipment. Have a good one and stay safe.